In the dead of night, under a blanket of stars, a car quietly pulled into an old, empty gas station. The soft hum of the engine was the only sound breaking the silence. Then, with a sudden push, the back door opened, and a large German shepherd was shoved out into the dark. The dog turned quickly, tail wagging, eyes full of panic. He tried to leap back inside the car, but the door slammed shut. He stood there, frozen, confused, alone. He watched helplessly as the car's taillights disappeared into the blackness. Then it began to rain. First a drizzle, then heavy drops soaked through his thick fur. But he didn't move. He just stood there staring at the empty road, convinced that any second now they'd come back for him. They didn't. As the rain poured harder, the dog curled up near the gas station's door, trying to stay dry. He didn't cry. He didn't bark. He just waited. Somewhere deep in the nearby woods, a faint, unfamiliar sound broke through the storm. A soft, scared whimper. The dog perked up, ears twitching. He didn't know what it was, but something inside him said he needed to find out. By morning, the sky was a dull gray and the ground was wet with puddles. Rain slid down the gas station's windows like silent tears. The German shepherd was still there, curled up tightly under the overhang by the door. His fur was soaked, muddy, and tangled. He shivered from the cold, but his eyes stayed glued to the road. Every time a car passed on the highway, he would lift his head. Every time a vehicle turned in for gas, he stood up quickly, tail wagging with cautious hope. But no one he recognized ever stepped out. People noticed him, some with sympathy, some with uncertainty. A few tried to approach, but the dog backed away. Still, he never growled. He was waiting for a family that wasn't coming back. Around noon, the rain eased up. The wind, though, still bit through the damp air. Mr. Thomas, the station's owner, stepped outside to check the pumps. His eyes fell on the dog. "Poor boy," he muttered, his heart sinking. He wasn't sure what to do. He loved animals, but this was just a small gas station. Still, he couldn't ignore the sad creature lying outside his door. He filled a bowl with water and found some old bread in the back room. He gently placed both in front of the dog. "Hey, boy," Mr. Thomas said softly, crouching down. "You hungry?" The German shepherd looked up, eyes tired and heavy. He sniffed the food but didn't touch it. Instead, he turned his head back toward the road. Mr. Thomas sat quietly on the steps, watching. "Are you lost? Did someone just leave you here?" The dog didn't answer, of course. He just stared. Soon after, a pickup truck pulled in. A woman in a blue coat stepped out, spotted the dog, and walked over. "Is he yours?" she asked. Mr. Thomas shook his head. "Nope. He was already here when I came in this morning. Looks like someone just dumped him." The woman frowned. "That's awful. He looks terrified." "He won't leave that spot," Mr. Thomas said. "Just sits there like he's waiting for someone." The woman tried to reach out, but the dog pulled back. She sighed. "Wish I could help, but I have to get to work," and she drove off. That day, cars came and went. A few people took pictures of the dog. A young boy tried to share his sandwich, but the dog wasn't interested. He was too busy watching for someone who'd never come. At lunchtime, Mr. Thomas came out again, this time with a can of chicken. He emptied it into a bowl and slid it across the concrete. The German shepherd sniffed, then finally took a few cautious bites, but soon he was back to his vigil. The wind rustled the puddles. The sky remained low and gray. In the afternoon, a trucker stopped for fuel and noticed the dog. "That's a fine animal," the man said. "If no one claims him, maybe you ought to keep him." Mr. Thomas smiled but shook his head. "He's not mine. He's waiting for someone." Late that day, 2 young girls on bikes rode up. They stopped when they saw the German shepherd lying there. "He's so pretty," one of them whispered. "Can we pet him?" "Be careful," said the other. "What if he bites?" But the dog didn't growl, didn't bark. He just looked at them with exhausted eyes. The girls lingered, then rode off, whispering as they went. Inside the store, Mr. Thomas scribbled a sign. Lost dog, German Shepherd. Found at gas station. Do you know him? He taped it to the window. As evening fell, the lights of the gas station cast a soft glow on the darkening pavement. The dog still hadn't moved. Every passing headlight earned his full attention, but not once did he see the face he was searching for. Just before closing, a white sedan pulled up. A woman with short dark hair got out. She glanced at the dog and frowned. He's still here? She asked. Mr. Thomas nodded. Didn't move much all day. I think he was dumped last night. The woman shook her head. That's so cruel. Someone should call animal control. Let's give him one more night, Mr. Thomas said. Maybe, just maybe, someone comes back. The woman didn't look convinced, but she agreed. That night, Mr. Thomas turned off the station's lights and locked the doors. Before heading home, he placed another bowl of water and food near the dog. Good night, boy, he whispered. I hope your family comes back. But the dog didn't even lift his head. Rain started again. Leaves tumbled across the pavement. The dog curled tighter, shivering, but never ran, never hid. He just waited. And then, a sound. Faint. A small, frightened cry echoing from the woods. The German Shepherd lifted his head, ears high. For the first time in hours, he looked away from the road. He tilted his head, listening. The wind carried the scent of something small, vulnerable, afraid. Another cry. He stood up slowly. He looked at the road, then the woods, and back again. He didn't want to leave, but something inside told him he needed to go. Inside the station, Mr. Thomas peered out through the blinds. He saw the dog standing alert, staring into the trees. What? Did he hear? A raccoon? A lost kitten? Mr. Thomas turned away, assuming it was nothing. But outside, the German Shepherd made a choice. He turned from the road and stepped toward the woods. His paws sank into wet grass. Trees loomed around him, their branches reaching out like fingers in the dark. Still, he pushed forward, following the sound. Twigs cracked beneath his paws. He paused often, ears sharp, body tense. The cry came again. Louder this time, it was close. Then he saw it. In a small clearing under a blanket of leaves, something moved. A tiny puppy, alone, shaking. The big dog crept closer and sniffed. The puppy tried to crawl away, too weak to go far. The German Shepherd gently nudged it with his nose. The little one trembled, but didn't cry out. The big dog didn't leave. He lay down beside the puppy and curled around him, shielding him from the cold. He licked the puppy's ears, whispering in the only language he knew. You're not alone anymore. As the wind howled, the two dogs lay in the dark, lost, but no longer alone. The first rays of morning light slipped through the trees, painting the damp forest floor in soft shades of gold. Birds chirped cautiously, shaking off the rain. Deep in the woods, under a thicket of wet branches, the German Shepherd stirred. He blinked slowly, remembering where he was. Then he felt the warmth against his side, the tiny puppy, still curled up, breathing softly. The big dog stretched his legs carefully, trying not to wake the pup. His fur was damp and his stomach growled with hunger, but the woods offered no food, no water, just cold earth, dripping leaves, and the quiet breaths of a helpless life he had chosen to protect. The puppy whimpered as it woke, opening its eyes and trying to stand on shaky legs. It wobbled and fell back down, whining softly. The German Shepherd leaned down and gently licked its nose. The little tail gave a weak wag. He looked around. The forest wasn't safe, especially not for a pup. This small, the cries of crows echoed from the trees, and somewhere far off, a wild howl broke the silence. The German Shepherd knew they had to leave. He sniffed the air and caught a faint, familiar scent. Oil, metal, gasoline, the gas station. He could find his way back. He stood and nuzzled the puppy once more. Then, with practiced care, he gently took the pup by the scruff of its neck. The puppy dangled in his jaws, legs swinging weakly. The big dog started the journey back, pushing through brush and over slippery ground. The woods were dense, and the trip was slower with the extra weight. Thorns scratched his legs and the mud tugged at his paws, but the German Shepherd didn't stop. Halfway through the forest, he froze. Voices. He ducked behind a bush and watched. Two men in orange vests walked along the edge of the woods, talking and laughing, picking up trash. They didn't notice the dogs and soon moved on. The shepherd waited until they were gone, then continued forward. Finally, the trees thinned. Through the branches he saw it, the gas station roof glinting in the sunlight. But something was wrong. 3 stray dogs were sniffing around the parking lot. Their fur was rough, their ribs visible. They looked hungry, dangerous. The German Shepherd stepped forward cautiously, placing the puppy down behind him. His eyes locked onto the strangers. His ears went back. A low growl rumbled from his throat. The largest stray growled in return and took a step closer. The shepherd barked, loud, sharp, and commanding. The strays hesitated. The biggest one moved forward again, teeth bared. The German Shepherd didn't flinch. He stepped between the puppy and the others, tall and unyielding. For a tense moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, the strays turned and trotted off, tails low. Coo. Shepherd breathed a deep sigh of relief, picked up the puppy and trotted toward the edge of the gas station parking lot. Mr. Thomas had just stepped outside with a broom when he saw them. First the German Shepherd, then the tiny puppy, dangling gently from the big dog's mouth. Mr. Thomas dropped the broom and ran over. "Oh my goodness," he said, dropping to his knees. "Where did you find that baby?" The German Shepherd placed the puppy on the pavement and nudged it forward. The little one stumbled, then sat with wide, frightened eyes. Mr. Thomas inspected them both. He saw the scratches on the big dog's legs, the dirt, the exhaustion in their eyes. "You brought him back," he whispered. "You saved him." The German Shepherd wagged his tail ever so slightly. Mr. Thomas gently picked up the puppy and cradled it in his arms. It was light as a feather. The puppy leaned into his chest, eyes closing. The German Shepherd sat nearby, watching. Mr. Thomas carried the pup inside and placed it on a soft towel behind the counter. He poured a little milk into a shallow bowl, and the puppy drank hungrily. Outside, the big dog sat, staring through the glass door. He didn't want to leave the puppy, but he wasn't sure he was welcome. A few minutes later, Mr. Thomas came back out. He knelt beside the shepherd. "Come on, boy," he said gently. "You're part of this too." The shepherd hesitated, then he stepped forward. Inside the warm station, he shook rain from his coat. Mr. Thomas laid out another towel and placed a bowl of clean water in front of him. The shepherd drank deeply. "You saved that puppy," Mr. Thomas said softly. "You're a good dog." The puppy finished its milk and curled into a ball, fast asleep. The big dog lay nearby, watching. As the afternoon sun warmed the windows, people started coming in. Most didn't stop for gas. They came for the dogs. Word was spreading. One woman brought dog treats. A little girl left a stuffed animal next to the puppy. A young mother and her son stepped inside. The boy crouched near the German Shepherd and whispered, "You're a hero." The big dog wagged his tail and licked the boy's hand. The puppy, now awake, climbed onto the German Shepherd's back, tail wagging weakly. Mr. Thomas called the local shelter to explain what had happened. The staff promised to visit and help. But for now, Mr. Thomas would care for them both. He put up a new sign in the window. "Found big German Shepherd and rescued puppy. Ask inside." That evening, the 2 dogs lay on a soft blanket in the back room. Mr. Thomas checked on them often, bringing water, food, and soft words. As the sun set, turning the sky orange and pink, the gas station was quiet again. But this time, the dogs weren't alone. They had each other. They had hope. The German Shepherd listened to the fading sounds of the day. Cars passing, Mr. Thomas humming, children laughing. He rested his head on his paws, eyes half closed. And for the first time since that dark night at the gas station, He felt safe. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring. Maybe someone would come looking for him. Maybe not. But deep in his heart, he knew something for certain. He had done something good. He had saved a life. And he would protect that little pup with everything he had. By morning, news of the brave German Shepherd had spread across the small town like wildfire. People talked about him at the bakery, the post office, even at the schoolyard where kids pointed at his picture in the newspaper and whispered, "That's him, the dog that saved the puppy." Mr. Thomas arrived early that day, carrying a bag of food and an old blanket from home. When he opened the door to the gas station, he found the German Shepherd curled protectively around the tiny puppy. They were fast asleep, side by side, safe and warm. "Good morning, hero," Mr. Thomas whispered with a smile as the big dog lifted his head and wagged his tail. All morning, a steady stream of visitors came through. Some bought gas, but most just wanted to see the dogs. Mr. Thomas told their story again and again, how the big dog had been abandoned, how he found the puppy deep in the woods, and how he brought him back, never once letting him out of his sight. A reporter from the local paper arrived with a camera and notebook. She crouched low, snapping photos of the two dogs nestled together. "Do you know where the puppy came from?" she asked Mr. Thomas. "No one does," he said. "They're not even the same color, but now they're family." The reporter smiled and jotted down notes. "You're a real hero, aren't you?" she said to the German Shepherd, patting his head. By noon, the story hit the front page. Abandoned dog becomes town hero after brave rescue. The phones at the gas station began ringing non-stop. People wanted to help, to donate, to adopt. Some even thought they might know who the puppy belonged to. But when asked for proof, no one could say for sure. A group of kids on their way to school stopped by and gathered near the back room. "They're so cute," one whispered as the puppy licked their fingers. "Do you think they'll get to stay together?" asked a boy with big eyes. Mr. Thomas knelt beside him and said softly, "I hope so. They need each other now more than ever." Later, a woman named Mrs. Patel stopped by carrying a small basket. She introduced herself as a neighbor from a nearby farm. "I brought some cooked chicken and soft bread," she said. "They must be hungry." Mr. Thomas gratefully accepted the food and walked it back to the dogs. He tore the bread into small pieces for the puppy and filled a bowl with the chicken for the German Shepherd. They both ate eagerly, tails wagging. Mrs. Patel peeked in, watching with misty eyes. "They look so happy," she said. "That big dog is so gentle with the baby." Mr. Thomas nodded. "He won't let anyone near the pup. Not even me." "Can I try petting him?" she asked. "Go slow," Mr. Thomas said. "He's still a little nervous." Mrs. Patel knelt on the floor and extended her hand. The German Shepherd sniffed her fingers, then licked her palm. The puppy crawled into her lap and promptly fell asleep. She laughed softly, shaking her head. "How could anyone leave a dog like this behind, Mr.?" Thomas didn't answer. He just looked away. The dog stayed in the back room all day, curled up together. The big shepherd rarely took his eyes off the door. Every time it creaked, his ears perked, body tense, ready to protect. That afternoon, a man from the animal shelter arrived. He wore a blue uniform and carried a clipboard. He examined both dogs and wrote down their conditions. "No tags, no collars, no microchips," he said. "I could take them back to the shelter." But Mr. Thomas interrupted. "Can they stay here a few more days? They just found each other. I don't want to split them up." The shelter worker agreed. "All right, I'll leave some food and instructions for the pup. We'll check in again soon." But as the sun dipped low, something strange happened. A white car pulled into the station. Mr. Thomas recognized it immediately. A man in a dark jacket and a woman with a red scarf stepped out. They looked around nervously and came inside. "Can I help you?" Mr. Thomas asked cautiously. "We saw the newspaper," the woman said. "That puppy, we think he might be ours." Mr. Thomas narrowed his eyes. "Do you have a photo? A name?" The man jumped in. "No pictures, He just ran off a few days ago, into the woods. The German Shepherd, who had been lying beside the puppy, slowly stood. His body stiffened, ears forward. A low growl rose from his chest. The puppy whimpered and crawled behind him. The man stepped forward, and the German Shepherd growled louder, baring his teeth. The woman gasped and stepped back. "I think you should leave," Mr. Thomas said firmly. "Maybe come back with proof." Without another word, the couple turned and hurried back to their car. Tires squealed as they sped off down the road. Mr. Thomas's heart was pounding. He looked down at the German Shepherd. "You knew something. Wasn't right," he said softly, stroking the dog's back. "Smart boy." That night, Mr. Thomas stayed late. He couldn't shake the feeling that something bad was coming. He checked the locks, made sure the dogs had food and water, and kept his phone nearby. Outside, the wind picked up and storm clouds rolled in. The German Shepherd could sense it too. He paced the room, nose in the air. The puppy shivered, and the big dog laid down beside him, shielding him from the draft. Then, crash. A trash can blew over outside. The German Shepherd leapt up, barking furiously. Mr. Thomas rushed in with a flashlight. "It's okay, boy. Just the wind." The storm raged all night. Rain hammered the windows. Thunder boomed across the sky. The puppy buried his face beneath a blanket. The German Shepherd lay close, licking his ears, soothing him until the shaking stopped. They didn't sleep much, but they were together, and they were safe. By morning, the skies cleared and a rainbow stretched across the town. More people stopped by the gas station. Some brought food, others brought toys. A little girl named Lily handed Mr. Thomas a drawing. "This is for the hero dogs," she said shyly. The German Shepherd wagged his tail. The puppy barked a tiny, cheerful bark. Later that day, the shelter worker returned. This time, he brought a scanner to check for microchips. He scanned both dogs. Nothing, no owner, to be found. As the sun dipped low again, Mr. Thomas took the dogs outside for a short walk. The puppy chased butterflies in the fresh grass while the big dog followed closely, keeping an eye on every movement. Then, a car crept down the road. The white car. Mr. Thomas noticed it immediately. It didn't stop this time. The driver looked scared, but the German Shepherd stood tall, eyes fixed on the retreating vehicle, not looking away until it vanished. Mr. Thomas knelt beside the dog and whispered, "I won't let anyone hurt you. You're safe here." And the German Shepherd believed him. He looked down at the puppy, nuzzled into his side, and wagged his tail. They weren't just two dogs anymore. They were survivors. They were family, and no matter what came next, they would face it together. The following days passed slowly, but the tension was building, thick in the air like a storm waiting to break. News of the dogs in the white car had spread throughout the community. The German Shepherd, now known as a local hero, still stood guard every day, always keeping the puppy close, never letting him out of sight. Mr. Thomas noticed something had changed in him. He was calmer, yes, but more alert, more protective. He barked sharply anytime an unfamiliar car slowed near the station, and always positioned himself between the puppy and strangers. The puppy, on the other hand, was growing stronger and more playful. His legs, once wobbly and weak, now carried him across the floor in bursts of excited energy. He would chase bits of crumpled paper or tug gently on the German Shepherd's ear, trying to get him to play. And sometimes, just sometimes, the big dog would nudge him back, tail wagging slightly. One afternoon, a knock came at the gas station door. 2 police officers and a woman in a business suit stepped inside. The woman held up a paper. "I'm the attorney representing the family who originally owned these dogs," she said with forced politeness. "This is a legal claim for their return." Mr. Thomas's chest tightened. "You mean the family that left them in the woods?" he asked. "That's still being investigated," she replied smoothly. "But until the case is resolved, the dogs must remain in holding. They are technically considered property." Mr. Thomas glanced back at the German Shepherd, who was now standing silently in front of the puppy, his eyes locked on the strangers. "I'll keep them here," Mr. Thomas said firmly. "This is as safe a holding as any." The officers exchanged glances but eventually nodded. "We'll be checking in regularly," one of them added. As they left, the lawyer looked at the German Shepherd one last time. "That's a valuable dog," she said. "Families don't just give animals like that away." Mr. Thomas didn't reply. He simply walked over, knelt down beside the dog and whispered, "They didn't give you away. They threw you away." From that point on, the station became a place of quiet defense. The town was divided. Some believed in following the letter of the law, others in following the truth. Every day, neighbors dropped by to offer support. Children made handmade signs. One read, "Protect the brave." Another, "They deserve to stay together." But still, the white car returned. Late one night, Mr. Thomas heard movement behind the building. He stepped out with a flashlight and saw the same car parked across the road. But this time, the man and woman weren't alone. A third figure stood, in the shadows, a tall man Mr. Thomas didn't recognize. Something about him made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. The German Shepherd stood beside Mr. Thomas, stiff as stone. A deep growl rolled from his throat. The stranger took a step forward. Mr. Thomas shouted, "Back off, you're not welcome here." The car engine revved, and all three figures disappeared into the darkness. The next morning, Emily returned. She was a young woman from a local animal rescue group who had been following the dog's story. Her gentle demeanor immediately relaxed both dogs. She brought supplies, blankets, toys, food, even a soft collar for the German Shepherd. "I want them to feel safe and loved," she said. The German Shepherd sniffed the collar carefully. Then, to Emily's surprise, he wagged his tail and let her buckle it around his neck. "You're such a brave boy," she whispered, patting his side. "You saved a life. Now it's time for you to live one." Emily and Mr. Thomas began working closely. Together, they reviewed shelter applications, spoke with local families, and tried to find someone who would take in both dogs. But the big dog's eyes always drifted to the road, waiting, watching, hoping. Then, one crisp autumn afternoon, a little boy named Jake walked into the gas station. He had a soft voice, wide eyes, and the kind of sadness that only comes from loss. He sat cross-legged on the floor and began talking to the dogs. "I used to have a dog too," he said quietly. "He died last year. He was my best friend." The German Shepherd slowly walked over and sat beside him. Jake reached out, hands shaking slightly. The dog sniffed, then licked his fingers gently. Jake smiled. From that moment, they were inseparable. Mr. Thomas watched them and felt something stir in his chest. Maybe. This is the family he's been waiting for. But the peace didn't last. Late one night, Mr. Thomas heard scratching at the back door. He opened it cautiously and saw the white car parked near the dumpster. No man, no woman, just a dark figure watching from the shadows. Mr. Thomas slammed the door, locked it, and called the police. The German Shepherd stood by the window, tail stiff, eyes hard. He wasn't just a protector of the puppy anymore. He was guarding the whole station. Days passed in a tense quiet. The town buzzed with whispers. Then finally, the court date came. It was a gray morning when Mr. Thomas, Emily, and the two dogs entered the small-town courthouse. The room was packed. Reporters, neighbors, children holding drawings of the dogs. And on the other side of the aisle, the family. The same man and woman from the white car, their faces red with tension. The German Shepherd didn't bark. He didn't growl. But he never took his eyes off them. The judge entered. The room fell silent. Each side presented their case. The family's lawyer argued that the dogs were property, lost during a trip and unfairly taken in by others. But Mr. Thomas and Emily told the real story. They showed the security footage, the family abandoning the dogs in the middle of the night. They presented vet reports showing neglect and malnourishment. They read letters from the townspeople testifying to the dog's loyalty, bravery, and bond. Then came the final moment. The judge looked around the courtroom. His voice was firm and clear. The evidence clearly shows these animals were abandoned. They have been rescued, cared for, and protected. The court hereby revokes any claim of ownership by the previous family. These dogs will remain in protective custody until they are adopted into a safe, loving home. Together, the courtroom erupted in cheers. Children hugged each other. Emily wiped a tear from her cheek. Mr. Thomas knelt beside the German Shepherd. "We did it, boy. You're free." The big dog looked up at him with those deep brown eyes, and for the first time since that rainy night at the gas station, he smiled. Outside the courthouse, the community gathered to celebrate. Someone brought a cake. Kids held signs. And right in the middle stood the German Shepherd and the puppy side by side. Heroes, survivors, family. The courtroom victory felt like the end of a long battle, but for the German Shepherd and the tiny puppy, it was just the beginning of a new life. Back at the gas station, the town's energy changed. People dropped by not just to see the dogs, but to thank them. Some brought food, others toys, and many simply came to sit quietly near them. The two dogs had become more than just animals. They were a symbol of something the whole town needed: hope. Every day the puppy grew stronger. He was still small, but his steps were steadier. He could hop onto low boxes, chase fluttering leaves, and tug at Mr. Thomas's shoelaces. His favorite spot was still curled up beside the German Shepherd, tucked safely under a thick front leg, like a fuzzy security blanket. And the big dog, he had changed too. His eyes were brighter. His ears perked up more often. He wagged his tail at familiar faces. But still, every evening like clockwork, he would walk to the front door of the station, sit quietly and stare out at the road. He wasn't looking for the people who had left him anymore. He was looking for the next chapter. One day, as golden afternoon sunlight streamed through the windows, a car pulled into the station. It wasn't the white car. This one was blue and a little dusty, the kind of car driven by a family that spent weekends out in nature. A woman stepped out first. She had gentle eyes and a calm smile. Then a man followed, tall, with kind hands and a warm voice. And finally a boy. He was maybe 8, with wide eyes and an old sadness on his young face. They had heard about the dogs from the news, and they'd driven hours just to see them. The boy knelt down slowly. The German Shepherd approached cautiously, then stopped. The boy didn't speak. He just held out his hand. The German Shepherd leaned in and sniffed. Then he did something that surprised everyone. He sat right next to the boy, as if he already belonged there. The puppy, curious, waddled over and sniffed the boy's shoes. He gave a tiny bark. The boy giggled. The woman turned to Mr. Thomas. "We lost our old dog last winter," she said softly. "He was like family, but we weren't ready. Not until we saw the story." Mr. Thomas glanced at the German Shepherd, who was now gently nudging the boy's arm. "I think they've already made the decision for us," he said. That evening, Mr. Thomas and Emily helped load up the car. The family had brought everything: treats, toys, blankets, a double bed for the dogs, and a big box of dog food. Emily knelt and hugged the German Shepherd. "You're going to be okay now," she whispered. "You're going to be loved." "Sierra." German Shepherd pressed his head against her shoulder. The puppy, full of energy, bounded into the car and immediately curled up on the back seat. Mr. Thomas stood by the door, one hand on the big dog's collar. "Thank you," he said, voice thick with emotion, "for everything you've done." The German Shepherd gave him one last look, calm, grateful, full of trust, and climbed into the car. As they drove away, Mr. Thomas and Emily waved, both blinking back tears. And the German Shepherd, ever watchful, turned to look out the window, not in sadness, but with peace. They were going home. The station felt quieter after they left. Too quiet. Mr. Thomas still kept the blankets in the corner of the back room, even though they were no longer needed. He often walked to the door in the evenings, half expecting to see the big dog watching. The road, just like before. The town missed them too. Children at the local school wrote poems about bravery and love. They drew pictures of the German Shepherd and the puppy, and one child even made a comic book titled The Gas Station Guardians. Emily visited often, always with stories from the new family. "They're doing great," she told Mr. Thomas one morning over coffee. "The puppy's favorite game is still chasing butterflies, and the big guy, he's learned how to open the pantry when no one's watching." Mr. Thomas chuckled. "Figures. He sleeps at the foot of the boy's bed every night," Emily added. "Doesn't move until morning." That spring, the family sent a handwritten letter to Mr. Thomas. Inside was a photo of the dogs playing in a backyard, green grass under their paws and sunshine all around. The note read, "You didn't just save 2 dogs. You gave our family a second chance. Thank you for believing in them when no one else did." Mr. Thomas read it 3 times, then framed it. Inspired by the journey of the German Shepherd and the puppy, Mr. Thomas started something new, a rescue group. He called it Hope Paws. He and Emily worked together, visiting shelters, rescuing strays, and helping them find homes. They taught kids in schools about kindness toward animals and organized weekend adoption events at the gas station. The story of the 2 dogs became a legend in the community. People who had never spoken before were now working together. Strangers helped each other. Lost animals were no longer left behind. The German Shepherd and the puppy had done more than survive. They had changed an entire town. On warm summer nights, Mr. Thomas would sit on the bench outside the gas station, sipping tea as the sun dipped below the hills. He would watch the road and smile. He no longer looked for a white car or a returning family. Instead, he saw the reflection of 2 dogs, one strong, one small, who had wandered into his life and left behind something unforgettable. Sometimes, when the wind rustled just right, he could almost hear the soft padding of paws across the pavement, and a tiny bark that always made him laugh. "Good boys," he'd whisper. "Thank you for teaching us what love really means." And somewhere, in a yard full of toys, laughter, and warm summer light, the German Shepherd and his little brother chased butterflies through the grass, hearts light, tails wagging. They had found what every dog dreams of, a forever home.